Welcome to another episode of the Snug Wrestling Podcast. Tonight, we are going to be doing our Monday Night Raw review for March 9th, 2026's edition, live from Seattle, Washington. My name is Mr. Blood. I am the lead analyst on Snug Wrestling, former pro wrestler, and co-host to the head and founder of Snug Wrestling, Edgar, and our amazing young color commentating analyst of a sort, Toxic. And we are the panel that makes up Snug Wrestling, minus our good boy Tommy, who is out tonight for personal reasons, but we'll be back on Wednesday night for the NXT review with Edgar, live on Apple and Spotify podcast, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. As always, wherever you're listening to us from right now, welcome to the Snug Wrestling Podcast. Had a lot to get into tonight regarding Monday Night Raw. But as far as it goes, before we delve in, gentlemen, how are you feeling tonight, this Monday, about the show?
The show, I mean, all the shit with Road Dogg. I don't even know if this is just for SmackDown, but even if it is, you can definitely tell that their writing has gotten better because I'm usually like this with Raw, but I was focused in. I was wondering like what's gonna happen, and I can tell Road Dogg's like not. I don't know the word, but I could just
Road Dogg
tell.
was mostly on SmackDown, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Well, he wrote for SmackDown, but interesting you said that, Toxic, because a brand new lead writer did start tonight on Monday Night Raw. That was reported in the Wrestling News. So you're definitely pretty on target there. So there's a brand new writer for Raw, and now there's going to be a write-up change on SmackDown. So I think you're hitting the nail on the head.
Yeah, so I mean, you can definitely feel that change. I mean, even with SmackDown last week, I mean, you can tell the just the interest level that you have, even though I'm always interested in Raw because Raw has just been better than SmackDown. But I'm excited to get into it. The show is amazing, and I don't really have any complaints about it.
Yeah, Raw was dope tonight, man. There was a lot of great holy shit moments. Like, what the fuck just happened? We got a big turn of events, after a long storytelling, long-term storytelling. We finally got the big blow off to that, but we'll get into that when we do. And to top it all off, it had a great finish. I got a lot of good clips from tonight and a lot of good reactions because I was just like, oh, so you guys can check those out on our socials. But yeah, it was fun. So Raw was fun tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Raw definitely had a different feel. We were talking about this off air, but I was telling Snug it was a little difficult to do the notes tonight because the pacing was so different from every other traditional episode of Monday Night Raw. And just the first three, parts of Raw, opening segment, Gauntlet match, and the match that followed, took up my entire first page of notes because there was so much to get into. And speaking of getting into, we kick off Monday Night Raw with Adam Pearce starting out the show, calling out Seth Rollins. And it's not that Seth's in trouble. He wants to talk to them because he needs to get ahead of all this and stop Seth from making a terrible mistake, right? A masked man hops on the announcer table. Now, it was clearly Seth Rollins. You could tell by his body type. You could tell by the way his shoulders were. Seth has a very particular stance, and you knew that was Seth on the announcer table. Now, then a bunch of other masked men come out. They start shuffling around outside the ring to try to confuse the TV audience and the live audience, which one's the real Seth. But the truth was, I think this was a kind of a fail, because none of them even remotely resembled Seth Rollins in a way that I thought would be confusing for viewers. And they moved slow enough that if you just kept your eyes on which one Seth was, you knew where he ended up. So they wind up filling the ring. They disperse. And then, oh, it's Seth. This is the real Seth who reveals himself. Adam pleads with Seth to stop because he's trying to keep him from getting injured. He knows that if the Vision gets their hands on him, it's going to go one of two ways. And the worst way, the worst case scenario is that they take Rollins out permanently, and it's the end of Seth freaking Rollins. Now, LA Knight comes out after Logan and Austin Theory interrupt and basically try to run the ring. The army of masked men get in the way and basically back up Seth. LA comes out to beat the shit out of Theory and Logan Paul. And then when they try to finally get in the ring, Seth disappears into the army of masked men who do the shuffle again, kind of a little corny and hokey in my opinion, because we could tell which one was Seth. It's not like he was lightning fast about switching spots. And basically, Theory's about to hit with the 1D when the Usos also come out, and Theory saves Logan Paul from getting hit with the 1D. And that was the opening segment. Guys, what did you think about this? Because I personally thought some elements were good, but the whole army of masked men thing for me, and switching and trading places like this was a game of Shuffle Cup. Or, you go to the carnival and, they're like, find the ring under the cup or whatever, and you win. And this just felt like a failure version of that, because you could tell who Seth was the entire time. And I thought it was a little corny, but that's just my opinion. What did you guys think?
So funny story, but not so funny at the same time. I don't know why, but I completely forgot Raw was tonight. So I start watching it at least like 6 minutes into the show, so I didn't even get to see the entire like beginning part of all the masked men circling the ring, and I mean Michael Cole being a dumbass and saying, "Oh, one of them is Seth Rollins." I saw that from Snug's clip on it, so thanks, Snug. But I mean, Pierce's got a point. Seth has got to stop this, one, because I'm tired of seeing it, and two, because he doesn't need to get more injured, because Seth is really injury prone whenever he gets into like a very good storyline or like a really good match. So, I mean, Adam Pearce has a point. But I mean, at the same time, it's Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins not gonna do what anyone tells Seth Rollins to do, unless he like actually wants to do that. But the involvement with Logan and Theory that's predictable. You obviously knew they were coming out. But I didn't know that LA Knight or the Usos were coming out to help. I wouldn't really say help, but beat up the Vision. But at the end of the day, I just have to wonder what they're doing with this, because to be honest, I think this leads into Mania, but I don't think it's the Usos versus the Vision for the tag titles. I want to say it's a 6-man. Usos and LA Knight versus the Logan and Austin Theory, and someone else that I want to predict is probably going to be Royce Keys, because we have yet to see him. But I'm kind of dragging it out, but this segment was great.
I think you're onto something, Toxic. I mean, if it does end up being a 6-man, it would have to be a returning Braun Breaker, I think. But I mean, they're the ones that got the history, but we'll get into that when we get there, right? But no, I thought at first I thought that this whole thing that Seth Rollins did, showing up with all these masked guys, because I mean, how many times have we seen masked men, and then their WWE said, "Well, here's more, here's 100 more," and it's like, okay, and then they start doing the square dancing around the ring to confuse Adam Pearce. And at first it was like, what's the point of that? Why do you have to try to confuse Adam Pearce? Where you're coming from, Seth? If Adam Pearce is the one that called you out there in the first place. I'm like, okay, that I don't see really what the point of that was. But then later on, after I heard what Pearce said and the whole point of this, it kind of made sense to me, because I lost complete sight of Seth Rollins. Maybe I wasn't paying enough attention, but he did some funny ninja vanish shit on me, and I was like, oh, well, fuck. It worked, actually. because one of the things Adam Pearce was telling Seth is, you were able to get away the first time from the Vision, the second time, but what if you're not able to get away from them? And it kind of just makes you think and wonder, well, Seth Rollins is going to find all these different creative ways to get away from them, like he did tonight, where they did the whole little square dance thing to confuse the people, and then he was gone. Logan and Theory didn't get to Seth again. So because of that, it made sense to me. For me, it worked. It got me, and I popped for it. So I thought it was good.
Yeah, personally, I don't think you were paying close enough attention. Some of those clips are on your cell phone, I see. And I was literally watching. And you know it didn't help mask Seth Rollins for me? Because I literally, when he's outside the ring, I followed him the entire time. Like, that's Seth. Those are his traps. That's his drop shoulder look. Because he always stands like this. Like his shoulders are way the hell down here. And then when he gets in the ring and does it, the cameraman is like following Seth throughout the movement, and then he stops and he's like, oh wait, I'm not supposed to be following Seth. And then he just like, ooh, you don't know who
I don't look at guys that close, I guess.
Well, I'm sorry, it was the only thing in frame was 10 motherfuckers standing in within
do you
5 feet of the ref.
Do you think it's easier for the people watching at home than the people in the arena to get confused?
I think it's much easier for if you're higher up in the arena. I think you can definitely tell if you just kept your eyes on Seth the whole time, because all you're doing is just watching him move like this in like a figure eight fucking pattern from like 40 feet in the air. If you're like front row and you're hard cam side staring into the ring, there's so many guys you might lose them because they might block. But if you're like on like watching it from home, I was like, the fuck is this for? I know which one Seth is. They don't even all have the same body types. They don't all have the same shoulder spans. They don't all stand the same way. Some of them, those guys are swimming in those fucking hoodies because they're so baggy. And I was like, that's fucking Seth.
The other thing too, I wanted to ask you guys about this. No Paul Heyman. He's going to be out indefinitely until
the report says. Reports did say he would be off TV for the time being to sell the injury, sell the angle, because now the Vision needs to figure out how they survive without his guidance. So I think that's also an interesting story beat.
We also got one question here on the commented to me. Do you think that will give Austin and Logan the tag team belts? I hope so.
I definitely think, and I said this before, I was actually the one who proposed this. If you don't have Braun back in time, and if you do have Braun in time, he needs to go versus Seth. I think that's the bigger match rather than a multi-man tag match. However, I think if you want the Vision to keep their momentum, put them back on the map, put the danger of the Vision back at the forefront of the story so they don't lose momentum, lose steam, I don't think the Usos are hurt in the least by dropping the tag titles to them. I think it elevates the Vision, and the Usos will be just fine. They're the longest reigning tag champs in WWE history. I don't think them dropping the tag titles at WrestleMania is the biggest deal. I think it's the smart move to make. And if we've seen anything from this booking around this Mania with WWE changing course so many times because they've had to, sometimes the smart decision, the safe decision is the best decision. And I think that we're going to see that play out at WrestleMania. But we are going to move on here to the number one contenders match for AJ Lee's Intercontinental Championship. This wound up being a Gauntlet eliminator match. Now, this was going to be, I believe it was 5 women total, if I remember correct, or 6 actually. It was Lyra, IYO, Bayley, Ivy, Asuka, and Raquel Rodriguez. Now, when it came down to it, I was very surprised. This is when I noticed that the entire pacing of the show was going to be different, because you're talking about a match with 6 women that you have to have a bunch of mini matches here. All right. You have to let them breathe as much as possible. This went about 42-ish minutes. This took up the remainder of the entire first hour. Now, it starts off Lyra versus IYO in the ring. I thought they did a really good job. They really helped keep the crowd up, especially IYO with her offense. IYO won. Io versus Raquel was next. Raquel came out, looked great, shutting down Io's offense, beating the shit out of her. Io's rallying as much as she can, but she can't overcome the distraction from Liv Morgan helping Raquel Rodriguez. However, it backfired on Raquel, and Raquel gets rolled up by Io, but Raquel's pissed off, hits a Tejana bomb on Io on the apron. All of a sudden, Ivy Nile comes out. All she has to do is roll IYO Sky in the middle of the ring and pin her 1, 2, 3. That is the biggest pinfall of Ivy Nile's career. She just pinned a former world champion with ease. Say what you want about how she got the pin. She got the pin. She has officially defeated and pinned IYO Sky in one-on-one competition inside of a gauntlet match. Now, then we get a really, really good back and forth with we get a really good back and forth with Ivy versus Bayley, which went a long time. And I thought Ivy shined here. I thought Ivy, this is the longest we've ever seen her in a match. I thought she really got some great offense in here. Bayley was awesome as well, made her look great. They had a really, really good match here, in my personal opinion. Bayley wins with the Bayley to belly. And then we finally get Asuka, who comes out with Kyrie. Now, Bayley and Asuka, great matchup. A lot of history there with damage control. Bayley gets the win, but not for the lack of trying of cheating from Kyrie Sane, who attempts to attack Bayley on the outside while the ref is distracted. Then out of nowhere, Lyra Valkyria drop kicks the shit out of my girl Kyrie into the ringside. And then Bayley gets the win on Asuka. Bayley is your number one contender for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. I thought this was actually set up all really, really, really well. And the Ivy pin over IYO specifically, they protected IYO in an incredibly smart way. Exhausted, 2.5 matches in, and then gets attacked after. Perfect way to let Ivy get a pin on her, regardless of whether it was clean or not. What did you think about this, brother?
I actually enjoyed this a lot more than I thought, a lot more than I expected. Except for that pin that Ivy Nile got over IYO Sky, because you're right. That's a big deal. Ivy Nile pinning IYO Sky, a former world champion. Holy shit, right? But it was just like the way that they did it just seemed so unimportant, just seemed like whatever. And I wanted to see more, now that I think about it, I wanted to see more come out of that for Ivy Nile. Maybe IYO Sky fighting a little bit of, against Ivy Nile, but Ivy Nile still overpowering a weakened IYO Sky. I think it missed something more than just, I'm just gonna throw you in the ring and just 1, 2, 3.
I agree. I think, again, it protected Ivy because, again, she had just wrestled 2 matches, basically, got attacked outside the ring, and then gets rolled up. I would have liked to see Ivy. I would have liked to see IYO kick out once, like a surprise kick out. Ivy's got to fight a couple more minutes, gets a really big move on IYO. IYO goes down, but she goes down swinging. But I think Ivy is supremely, severely underrated in WWE for her work ethic, her work type, her technical ability. And I thought we could get a really great match out of IYO versus Ivy, but maybe we'll have to wait for it. But Toxic, what did you think of this gauntlet eliminator for the women?
To be honest, I wasn't really that interested, mainly because I didn't get to watch the last half because I couldn't get left alone for 5 minutes. But I knew that Bayley was going to win it. I mean, it was kind of predictable, but not really at the same time, because then there's the there's the question on what about Raquel, and then will Lyra be a factor in Bayley winning or not, and then everyone else. But if I were to like spot someone out for like who looked the greatest in this match, it's got to be Raquel or Ivy. They looked amazing in this match. Bayley is a close second. But I mean, I kind of knew it because, I mean, that just sounds like the better match, AJ Lee versus Bayley. Because IYO, I don't want to see that just yet. Raquel, she would absolutely destroy AJ. Nothing against AJ, but I mean, just Raquel's the powerhouse. Asuka, no. Who else was in there? Ivy, but no. And then Lyra, just I think that's after Bayley, but I mean, Bayley was the clear answer here for me.
I want to point something else out really quick. The names that we're seeing involved in this Gauntlet match, we got some pretty big names in the Intercontinental title scene now, including Asuka, who was in the tag team division not that long ago. So now we got, all these 6 women all lining up for a shot at AJ Lee. I mean, that title scene is looking pretty good, isn't it?
I mean, it's funny when you think about it. I feel like all these women in this match are getting a chance at the IC title. Now, of course, Bayley and Lyra were the first people a part of this division with Becky last year. However, when it came down to it, we needed this division more fleshed out because it was literally just the Bayley, Lyra, Becky, Maxine show for so long. Then we thought we were going to get something out of Natty being a part of it. Nope. Then we thought we were going to get something more out of Nikki Bella. Not that I needed to see that, but nope, it was a one and done. And then it kind of just floated around between Becky and Maxine, involving AJ on the outside and Natty for weeks and weeks and weeks. And none of these women seemed to be even remotely interested in going for the title. They were so focused on tag team shit. So it's nice to see this because when you look at this, nearly everyone in this match is a part of a women's tag team. Lyra and Bayley. Asuka is a part of the tag scene. Raquel is a part of the tag scene when Liv isn't chasing singles gold. So it was nice to see this division fleshed out for sure. And these are all, in my opinion, aside from Ivy, who does not get her due, this was filled with very big names for this division who all have some serious cred to their track records here, especially in the last year or so. Raquel, her stock has gone through the roof, I think, specifically out of everybody in this match. She, to me, has just really risen in her role in the last year. She's, in my opinion, she has the most progression from a character standpoint. And I would love to see her get that IC title. But let's move on to the second match of the night. Penta versus Chad Gable Americano for the Intercontinental Championship match. Now, this started off funny, right? Because we can't talk about the match without talking about what happened before the match. Chad Gable, the original Americano, is backstage. He's getting ready. He's interrupted by who? Danhausen. Danhausen, who wants to take Chad's mask, who wants to touch his cape, who wants to know if he wants to team up and be tag partners. And Chad goes, I can't right now. I'm focused on my match. I just need you to, kind of go somewhere right now. So I got to focus. I just got to focus. Danhausen goes, you don't want to team up with me? You don't want to give me a mask? Well, then you are cursed. And he curses Chad Gable Americano. So when Penta is out there, after cutting an incredible, passionate promo, thanking the fans and everybody who supported him and telling them, this title's for the dreamers, the believers, the fighters. I won this for you. This isn't just for me. This is for everyone. We then hear El Grande Americano's music, but it's Ludwig Kaiser's, not Chad Gable's. And whatever curse Danhausen put on Chad, he didn't show up for this match. Ludwig Kaiser did. And they had a match for the title. Penta won. It was a decent match, in my opinion. I thought the crowd would be more into it than they were. It didn't have as much fanfare as I thought it would. They were actually more hyped for the promo Penta cut before the match than they were for the match itself. But I do have a gripe with this. Danhausen, has been somewhat entertaining since coming to the main roster, since joining WWE. However, I thought it was stupid that Danhausen cursed Chad Gable. I thought it was dumb because Chad Gable is a babyface now. So Danhausen, why is he cursing the good guys? And Chad wasn't even mean to him. Dominic was mean to him last week. Dominic threatened bodily harm against him. All Chad said was, hey, you can't take off a luchador's mask. Please don't touch my mask. Hey, I'm not saying anything. I'm sure you're a great guy. You're very entertaining, is exactly what he said to Danhausen. But I have a match. I've got to go. I don't have time for this. I need to focus. Can you please vamonos? He wasn't mean. He was just like, hey, I'm on my way to the ring. I can't do this right now. And Danhausen's like, man, you're cursed. And it's like, that's kind of dumb. Why screw over the good guy who's just saying, hey, man, I just don't have time to talk right now? Like, what? Are you going to curse every babyface who doesn't have time to talk to you when they're on a show trying to win matches and titles and championships and they can't stop their day to fucking stroke your ego for 5 seconds, Danhausen? So I just thought it was kind of dumb. I think it's I think this was the first misstep in using Danhausen. I think Danhausen should be cursing the heels, not cursing the baby faces.
I'm gonna go first on this one, Toxic, because I know you just came back. But yeah, the famous Danhausen curse. If you weren't familiar with the Danhausen curse, I'm sure you are now, because he cursed Dom. He lost the IC title. Try to curse the Miz on Friday. The Miz sold it, and then today he cursed Americano. And I thought this makes sense because we don't expect Penta to lose the title on his first title defense, right? After everything that they did for him to finally get it, just to lose it, no. So I'm like, this kind of fits here. It makes sense, right? But they did one even better because you saw the Rayo and Bravo, behind the wall. They kind of chase after Americano after, the whole segment thing was over. So basically what they ended up doing is the Americanos, Bravo and Rayo, got a hold of Americano and kept them backstage for Kaiser Americano to step in for him. This kind of goes back to what happened in AAA. Yes, Blood.
Where did you see Rayo and Bravo? Because the people in the background of that segment was Kyrie and Asuka.
Rayo and Bravo were standing behind a wall behind Chad Gable and Danhausen. After they walked away, you can see Bravo and Rayo run after Americano. After
Did
that
not
segment.
see that on the American broadcast. You were watching international. I didn't see that on my screen.
It was I wasn't on international today. Yeah, they were on there, but basically, long story short, this goes back to something that they did in AAA. So unless most people don't watch AAA, that kind of went over your head because they didn't explain that. They did. I thought that they were going to show after the match, maybe Chad Gable backstage, like in some hand ties or something, with Rayo and Bravo standing over him, because that's what they did to Kaiser Americano. That's what Chad Gable did to him in Mexico in AAA. So this is kind of payback. Chad Gable took a match from Kaiser in Mexico. So Kaiser basically returned the favor tonight on Raw. But they didn't fucking explain it. However, I loved how they did it because it made sense to me because I watch AAA. But I wish that they could have explained it a little bit more to the people who don't watch AAA,
I didn't really think that it was a misexplanation of that because again, all I saw was
I can't hear
Asuka.
Blood whatsoever.
All I saw was
but
go ahead.
All I saw was Asuka and Kyrie in frame. When the segment ends on my TV, because I didn't look away, I stared until the commercial came up. Never saw Rayo and Bravo on my screen. So I don't know if the broadcast was cut different in different regions. I don't know, but they never appeared on my screen in the East Coast.
Someone must have been on their phone then.
No, I watched it until the actual commercial because I was taking notes. But when it came down to it, I didn't think Danhausen needed to curse Chad Gable and Chad just to, because Penta's got to retain. Penta could have just beat Chad Gable clean with the curse. I get they're tying in AAA, but again, if you're going to tie in AAA, as you said, you need to explain that it's a tie into AAA and not the curse being because now fans got to wonder, well, is it AAA that caused it, or is it the curse that caused it? Because now you don't know. Okay, well, if it's the AAA feud, then you're saying that Danhausen's curse is bullshit. Because the curse didn't get Chad, Ryo and Bravo did.
Shout out to Josh. Hey, 10. I haven't watched Raw yet. Was it good? Yeah, it was good. We thought so.
But I just think that the Ryo Bravo thing undermines the curse if you don't tell the audience that the curse is basically like not what did Chad in. The AAA feud that they didn't tell the regular audience for WWE main roster TV is actually what caused it. I think it just does. I think it automatically undermines Danhausen.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of Danhausen, everyone's undermining him. He's a joke. Everyone knows it, Shout out to Rosebud, says hello. What up?
Well, like, is the curse real or not? Or is it just a bunch of unfortunate circumstances that always happen when he curses somebody? That's my question. Is he a supernatural gimmick, or is he just a guy who says shit and then actual random shit happens at the exact same time by coincidence?
It's that. It's the second one. But Danhausen believes he's very nice, very evil, magical guy, which is entertaining. It's funny, People are going to buy into it. I think that's the point. Well, Toxic has been having some technical difficulties, so let's move on.
All right. Well, as far as it goes, we are going to move on to the Stephanie Vicaire promo. Okay, so this promo came out of nowhere. So it didn't come out of nowhere. It's supposed to happen, but the way it was, I was like, okay, you were in the building, you attacked Liv. Why did we need a video package? Could you not cut this promo to Liv or backstage or in the ring? You know what I'm saying? So Stephanie acknowledges all of Liv's hard work. We see flashbacks of all of Liv's career coming up in 2014 in developmental in NXT. She debuts on the main roster in 2015. But she says Liv has always had the tools to be great, but she never uses them. Says that the Mud Huts, as Liv called them from what Stephanie grew up in, Stephanie says, well, those Mud Huts made me into who I am today. They made me stronger. She says Liv could be great, but she's too busy hiding behind a trashy man and her friends. She says that she sees more in Liv than Liv sees in herself. Calls Liv a fierce competitor, but still says that won't be enough to beat Stephanie for the championship. Now, I like this and I didn't like this. I like that Stephanie is acknowledging the hard work of Liv, because I think it's bullshit that a lot of Stephanie's plight with Liv is that she acts like Liv hasn't had to suffer, hasn't had to pay her dues, hasn't gone through stuff. She keeps calling her privileged, which is annoying as shit to me. When we've seen Liv on Stephanie's podcast, seen Liv on other podcasts that are WWE adjacent, and you hear Liv grew up with a full family, poor as hell in New Jersey. Sometimes homeless, sometimes living and sleeping in cars, going without food, full of love in her family, but they struggled a lot. And every choice she ever made, she said it was always a choice trying to get to WWE. All she ever wanted was to be a wrestler in the WWE. She spent her entire adolescence trying to get to the place she is now. So for Stephanie to say that she's privileged, I think is pretty stupid, because it directly flies in the face of what we actually know about Liv canonically with WWE. Also, she acts like Liv Morgan had everything handed to her. I disagree. Liv debuted in 2015 on NXT. Liv didn't win her first world championship until 2022. 7 years later, with a Money in the Bank cash-in, she fucking wins her first world title. 7 years, she went through gimmick changes, stables and groups, very mixed to bad booking, barely any TV time. It took 7 years for the company to finally give her something to do with an opportunity. Okay, 7 years. That does not sound to me like having things handed to you. That sounds like being told we have nothing for you and you're going to wait until we do. And she was lucky to dodge all the releases that happened in 2020 because of COVID-19, because the way they had booked her leading up to 2020, she could have easily been fired from the company, along with a bunch of other talents that got released. So she survives 7 years, that survives all these firing, draft rounds WWE was doing for 2 straight years, and then finally gets an opportunity. And then since then, she has been building herself up as one of the most dependable workers in the business, in the company. We know last year when she went out with that shoulder injury, you could feel the loss of Liv Morgan in this women's division. The women's division needs Liv. And we know that to be a fact because we saw what it was like without her. And we were begging for her to come back. So though this promo was decent, I think it was terrible because half of this is bullshit that Stephanie is saying. But what did you think?
I didn't mind it. I liked it because if in this video package you could have subtitles, for the fans who don't speak Spanish, so it's easier to understand what Stephanie Vaquera had to say. And to a point, like you're right, Mr. Blood. Stephanie Vaquera does come off like Liv. She didn't suffer, she had it so good. But also at the beginning of the video package, Stephanie Vaquera acknowledges Liv Morgan's struggles, everything she's accomplished, everything she's done, the work that she's put in. But I think this is one of those stories of, well, if you think you have it worse, there's always someone else who has it even worse than you. And that's me. And I think that's what the point that Stephanie Vaquera is trying to make. And even though, it might be true, who knows? I mean, I don't really know who really had it worse, Liv or Stephanie Vaquera. I'm able to believe that Stephanie Vaquera growing up in a foreign country most likely did have it worse than Liv Morgan if we really want to get down to it, But no matter how you want to look at it, that's why that's what makes this so good. It makes you choose sides, because people love Liv, people love Stephanie Vaquera. Whose side are you on? Are you team Stephanie Vaquera or are you team Liv? So I think this works for what they're trying to do, which is build up a match for WrestleMania. I'm into it.
I'm trying to get into this story with Liv and Stephanie. My crux problem of this is that this whole story seems to be built around victim mentality. That's the problem. All of Stephanie's promos for the last 3 weeks about Liv have been, you didn't suffer enough for your art to be in the position you're in and to not value the position you're in enough because you didn't suffer enough to truly see the value in it. I had it worse. I grew up in a country where wrestling was almost non-existent. Then she literally has to issue a public apology for saying that because all the people of her home country got on her ass online on Twitter. And she had to issue an apology and recant saying that wrestling was damn near non-existent. She had to fight to have it because a lot of them were like, we've always had it here. We've had it here. You were only born like in the 90s. You're full of shit. And Stephanie just keeps harping on, you didn't suffer as much as I suffered. I acknowledge your strengths, but you don't realize how good you have it. And these are all the points Stephanie keeps hitting. And it just honestly feels to me like this entire feud is built off of woe is me, woe is me. I had it worse than you, woe is me. You don't respect how bad I had it. And I deserve this more because I had to go through more to get here. And I'm like, boo fucking who? You're both here. You know what I'm saying? And Stephanie's talking about having to earn it. It took Liv 7 fucking years in this company to get her first world title. Stephanie's been here for a year and a half, already champion. She's like a 3-time champion across three different titles. And she's over here talking about having a scratch and claw to Liv, who waited 7 years to get her first world title. Are you kidding me? I think it's stupid. But that's just me. I personally think that Stephanie is in the wrong here because I think she's speaking pretty empty platitudes here to Liv and about Liv.
Oh, we all know which side you're on.
I think Liv's side makes more sense because Stephanie's is filled with contradictions. Like, how do you tell someone, hey, you don't know what it's like to suffer. You've had everything handed to you, even though I've been here for literally way less time than you. And within a first year, I was already a 2-time champ. And now I'm the world champ on the biggest brand in the company. And it took you 7 years, but somehow I had it harder than you. Like, what?
We get it, blood. You like white girls.
No, oh my God.
What up, Toxic? Welcome back, dude.
Hey, buddy. But go ahead and give us your thoughts on the Stephanie the Care video package.
Okay, hopefully I don't fucking glitch out again or else I'm gonna get pissed off. But the Stephanie Vaquer video package or whatever you want to call it, it was what the story has been about. I mean, Stephanie has grinded her ass off to get where she is, and Liv, she got a tryout when she was like, what, 20? So, I mean, I don't have any thoughts about it because, I mean, I feel like they need...
Nope, glitched out. Move on.
All right, now moving on to the Judgment Day segment. Now, this segment didn't come out of nowhere, but what happened in the segment surprised the hell out of me that this was when they were going to pull the trigger on the ultimate turning point in this segment. So, starts off backstage. Obviously, Dom's looking for Finn. You can't find him. JD goes off to look for him. Dom says, I got to go out in the ring. I got something to get off my chest. All right. So Dom with Raquel and Liv go out to the ring. Now, JD goes and finds Finn, but Dom starts off by demanding a rematch for the IC title belt. He's like, hey, I got robbed. I want it back. And while he's bitching and moaning and complaining, all of a sudden Finn Balor's music hits. Finn and JD walk out and interrupt. When JD and Finn get in the ring, Dom, like an idiot, starts going off on Finn, bitching and moaning like a spoiled brat. Start telling Finn, you need to apologize to me. I'm not champion anymore because you cost me the title. Finn basically goes, well, I do apologize. I'm sorry. You're right. It's my fault you're not champion anymore, but I was just trying to help. Finn tells Dom, you know, sometimes you need to fight your own battles in life in order to be great. You want to be the greatest Mysterio? Learn to fight for yourself sometimes. And Finn rings true with that because Finn has just recently gone through that lesson. Raquel was trying to go through that lesson when she was going for the championship, telling Liv, stay out of it. I want to do this on my own. So this is a running theme for a lot of people in the Judgment Day, wanting to prove that they can hang without backup. But Dom is the only one who doesn't want to do that, right? So Finn says, you know what? Sometimes I think the more I try to get through to you, the more I try to help you these last 2 years, the more I realize your dad was right about you, that you're a spoiled little prick. Now, when it came down to it, Dom got upset, pie-faced Finn Balor. Finn turns around, hits him and blindsides Dom with a Pele kick. Boom. Judgment Day crack, wide the fuck open. Now, Dom is on the ground. Finn is about to go for a real big punch. JD pulls Finn to the corner, and he's telling him, what are you doing, Finn? You just hit him in the face, Finn. You just hit him in the face. Dom tries to come back at him. Finn hits him with a sling blade, sets up for a shotgun dropkick, and bam, the final nail in the coffin of Finn Balor in the Judgment Day. The man he brought into the company, the man he trained, JD McDonough, clotheslines Finn Balor and sides with Dom Liv Morgan gets on Finn, beats the shit out of him with Raquel and Finn and Dom. They jump the crap out of him. A frog splash, a 619 with the ring bell in the boot, and even worse, another frog splash with a steel chair laying across the torso of Finn Balor. He is officially out of the Judgment Day, and now we officially have the babyface turn of Finn Balor in the main roster, and we know for a fact we're getting Finn Balor versus Dominic Mysterio at WrestleMania. I loved this. Finally, Finn breaks free. I was waiting for the entirety of Judgment Day to implode, but it looks like they're going to keep Judgment Day together a little bit longer. I'm like, when we said we wanted the Judgment Day to implode, Triple H, we meant break them all up, not one piece of fucking at a time. But you know what? I'm glad that Finn is finally going to be back in, the singles division where he belongs, getting the spotlight he deserves. I think this is great. And we now have another emotional, very history-filled story going in to WrestleMania. And WrestleMania is starting to really shape up for me. This card's really starting to fill out with a lot of shit I want to see. But what did you think about this?
Man, how long has it been since they've been teasing this? Finn and Dom having tension. I feel like it's been at least a year.
It's been about a year.
But man, it was worth the wait, dude. Yeah, this was nicely done. I popped so big for this. I was like, holy shit, are they gonna do it? Dom comes out and he blames no one else but Finn Balor for Dom losing the Intercontinental Championship. And I'm like, oh shit, that's pretty ballsy. And he calls out Finn Balor. Finn Balor comes out with JD Madonna. And my first thought it was, is this the match that we're going to see for WrestleMania? And I'm like, nah, they're not going to do it, right? Finn gets in the ring. He tells Dom, hey, I was trying to teach you a lesson. I was trying to teach you that you can be the best Rey Mysterio. And as soon as he said that, I'm like, oh, shit's about to pop off, because in Dominic Mysterio's mind, he's already the greatest Rey Mysterio. But Finn said, you can be, as in, you are not the greatest Rey Mysterio just yet.
Yeah.
And, so Dom Pieface Finn, and I was like, okay, is it going to go down? Is it going to go down? And it went down, bro. It went down, and I was so glad that they finally pulled the trigger on this after a long, long time. But I'm probably the only one out of all of us here in Snug Wrestling that does not want to see the Judgment Day break up. So that was one of the big questions. What's going to happen with the Judgment Day? Like, while this was happening, JD Madonna, what's going to happen? What's going to happen with him? Whose side is he going to pick? And boom, JD hits Finn Balor with the clothesline. And then we see Liv Morgan and Raquel jump on Finn, and I was like, yes, perfect. We got a turn. We got Finn, should be he is a babyface now. The Judgment Day stays together. We have a match potentially being set up for WrestleMania, Dom versus Finn. What a great fucking segment.
Yeah, man, it makes you wonder if this is the only chint in the Judgment Day armor we're going to see on the road to WrestleMania, or if we're going to see Raquel and Liv turn on each other right before as well. If they're going to break the Judgment Day up in fragments, because here's the thing, like Roxanne is out on injury. She had to have surgery, or I don't know what's going on with her, but you have to wonder if they're going to split up the rest of the Judgment Day. They might be waiting for Roxanne to come back to blindside everybody, but they've already been showing cracks between Liv and Raquel too for a while, since Liv has been back too. So you have to wonder where all of this is going. But I gotta say, if we're getting Finn Balor versus Dom at Mania, I almost wish they left the fucking title on Dom, so we could see Dom versus Finn for the Intercontinental Championship. Part of me wonders, there's no story for Penta yet for that championship at Mania. And I wonder if Penta's going to drop it back between now and WrestleMania to Dom, and then it's them for the title together? Or is it a triple threat? Penta versus Finn versus Dom. And I'm wondering if that's possible. Maybe JD gets thrown in their fatal four-way. But when it comes down to it, I definitely think that this was the right move. Finn has started to catch a lot of fire, a lot of baby face fire back. A lot of people are rooting for him. But I also don't want to see Finn with the IC title either, because if he's with the IC title, then he's relegated back to the mid card, upper mid card. And I really want to see him break away from this Judgment Day stuff after Mania. And I want to see Finn in the main event again. I really want to see him at the top of the card with the rest of these guys. With Punk, he proved he can still hang and go there and put on exceptional championship matches. And I think Finn belongs in the main event. So once Mania is over, let's get Finn fully away from the Judgment Day and let's bump him up the card even further.
You just reminded me of something really quick, unrelated. It has to do with Penta. Penta doesn't have a story now that he's new Intercontinental Champion, which is true. And I have a theory about this, and tell me what you think, Blood. After what we saw tonight involving Penta defending the Intercontinental Championship versus Americano, Kaiser's version of Americano, it was supposed to be Chad Gable's Americano. I have a feeling that one of the reasons they put the Intercontinental Championship on Penta is to maybe bring in more AAA guys to showcase them, give AAA more of a spotlight, and vice versa. Bring the Intercontinental Champion Penta over to AAA. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot more like new faces coming after Penta, I think.
So you think like open challenge for the IC title, like they're doing for the US title on Raw, but for AAA?
Not necessarily an open challenge, but something like that. Not like an official open challenge,
Right.
you know.
But like, hey, I'm taking all comers. Anyone who wants to come out here, I'm going to be a fighting champion, yada, yada. Maybe once or twice he does that before he actually drops the title or has a defense against someone on the actual roster. Okay.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, this worked massively. When you start looking at the WrestleMania card, I mean, look at it. You know, we're looking at right now until the story might change again. We're looking at Cody versus Randy. Rumors are we're going to be looking at Jacob Fatu versus Drew McIntyre. We're talking Roman versus Punk. We're talking Stephanie versus Liv. We're talking AJ Lee versus probably a returning Becky Lynch. We're talking about Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley. We're talking Finn versus Dom now. We're talking an open challenge from Brock Lesnar, most likely Oba Femi. I mean, there's so much shit here that this WrestleMania card is really filling up in a lot of great ways. For a company that's had to continuously keep pivoting because of injury and just crazy happenstance for the last 2 months, sometimes when one door closes, another one opens. But fuck, sometimes when the barn door closes, the roof blows off because of a tornado. And this Mania card is shaping up. There's so many emotional stories going into this that I'm extremely excited for this Mania storytelling. I mean, look at next Monday Night Raw, right? You have Brock Lesnar coming back to speak, Roman coming back to speak, AJ Lee versus Bayley for an Intercontinental Championship match, El Grande versus El Grande next week. There's so much shit going on next week. We're really cooking up, but this one lit a fire under my ass for Mania season. But moving on to a smaller segment, this will be quick. Kofi Kingston tries to recruit Javon Evans backstage when Adam Pearce gives Javon the rest of the week off. Kofi doesn't come to him like a heel. Kofi actually tells Javon, I see a lot of myself in you. I had to scratch and claw, and when the time was right, the fans got behind me. I really pulled the trigger and I became a world champion. And I can see the same thing for you, but you need the right support group. You need the right team behind you, Javon. You don't have to answer now. Think about it and get back to me, but just let me know the offer's on the table. And Javon looked like he was going to give it some serious thought. Now, I don't see Javon turning heel this quickly. He's very much liked, but I could see them setting up a feud to kind of fill him around with the New Day or maybe just Kofi. But what did you make of this, and where do you think you see this going?
Very, very interesting. This is a side of Kofi Kingston I haven't seen in a long time, which is a normal person. He's not being overly dramatic or, overly heelish or, whatever. He's just being real. So I'm like, okay. I don't see Javon Evans going for it either. I mean, he doesn't really need it. He's doing just fine without anyone's help at this point. But I mean, how long is Xavier Woods going to be out for? Right?
That's fair. I completely keep forgetting that Xavier's actually injured too. A lot of injury around Mania, but also like Xavier, in my opinion, since the New Day has turned heel, has been the weak link of the New Day's heel turn. He's been overly goofy. The sombrero shit last year with Penta dragged Penta's momentum down a lot for about a month. He's been extremely obnoxious and annoying on commentary, not even like entertaining, like go away heat almost. And I feel like the worst part of this new heel turn, a new version of the New Day has been Xavier's presentation and character work. And look, I love Austin Creed, love the guy, but his character has become extremely unwatchable sometimes. And I think that they missed a massive opportunity by capitalizing on Grayson Waller being a part of the team and letting Grayson really shine under the New Day and put a spotlight on him, especially after all the work he did, reinventing his image and his body and getting bigger. And they just fucking threw that to wayside. Like, it doesn't matter. We'll give you a couple matches and then it's back to you're just a manager. So I'm hoping that if Xavier's out for a while, we can let Kofi get some really good work in with Javon. And because I could see these two having some extremely exciting fucking matches. Like they have match of the night stealing potential.
Yeah, so I think it could work. If Javon and Kofi were to join forces, I think that would be amazing. But it would have to be a babyface Kofi because you can't turn Javon Evans heel right now.
I don't know if I would believe Javon as a heel. I don't think I could believe him as a heel. Could you?
I don't know. I mean, not right now, no.
No. It's so hard because he's so enthusiastic and energetic. I can't imagine him being super serious,
He's so
not
likable.
fun. Because here's the thing, though, if you notice, not a lot of heels are high flyers. Because the entire point of being a heel is that you're not trying to excite the fans. You're trying to take their joy away from the babyface. If you have Javon go out there and he's bouncing around doing death-defying, cool-ass, awesome shit all the time, kind of hard to hate the guy who's just constantly entertaining, right?
And he's always happy.
Exactly. I can't buy him being like, grumpy, 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 moody, moody. Like I just don't see it. Next up, honestly, the only low of the night for me, Oba Femi versus Rusev. This was like, we spent 3 weeks on this, like all those squash matches, the segment last week with them calling out to no heat, by the way, because no offense to Rusev, but dude sucks the air out of a room. Like, I don't know what it is, his presentation. Fans don't give a fuck about Rusev. And I don't think it's Rusev's fault. I think it's I think it's his presentation. I think they should have brought him back as Rusev Day Rusev, and fans would have loved the shit out of him. But this was a couple of cool back and forth, power spots. Hey, we're equal. We cancel each other out. And then before you knew it, Rusev got his ass fucking owned very quickly from that giant throwing back body drop. And then immediately straight into a freaking fall from grace. And it was over in like, 4.5 minutes. Like, this match did not justify the 3 weeks of trying to get it set up. You could have just did this 2 weeks ago or last week when they brawled. This could have been a match a week ago. But if you're just trying to fill time to get Oba to Brock and you're just trying to give him an impressive win over another big guy, I don't know if this worked, because nothing about this was impressive to me, because I feel like Oba ran through him. And though you would think running through him would be impressive, because it's so heatless, there's nothing impressive about it. What did you think?
I didn't think too much about it, honestly, man, because it was just. I mean, this was Oba Femi's first actual real competition in the main roster, right? Because he's just been squashing people much smaller than him.
Aside from
tonight.
Cody. Yeah, aside from Cody last year. But
Yeah. And hell, even Cody got a better match out of Obafemi than this, you know. Um I was like, there's no way that Obafemi has to win this, right? And yeah, he did, because he's there. He's the one that he just got to the main roster. They got to put him over. But one of the big things that threw me out of this whole fucking thing was not just like how unexciting the lead up to this was. The match itself didn't really feel important. They were kind of just going through the motion, you know. They're two big ass dudes. Like I guess for a TV match, you know, they're not gonna go all out for a 4 minute TV match. I get it, you know, but it wasn't exciting at all. It was whatever, honestly.
yeah, man, I think there's better use of Oba's time. Um, and I think if you're trying to endear him to the main roster, you're very quickly turning him into a cool entrance. That's what I'm seeing. He's very quickly becoming a Jey Uso character where the most exciting thing a lot of fans feel about him, or the internet ire towards Jey Uso, is that he's just a cool entrance or an engaging entrance. Because what's the loudest people get for Oba? When he comes out and they go, Oba, Oba. And it's his walk, right? And when he spits the mist, that's what fans love doing when he comes out. And with Jey, it's the yeeting, it's the running it back. But the moment he gets in the ring, a lot of fans in the IWC feel like that's all you get is the entrance, and then it's just a Jey Uso match. Well, what we've been getting from Oba for a month is a great entrance, and then squash, 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 running through people like wet toilet paper match. And it's starting to feel very the samey. And I don't think that's helpful for him so far.
Here's a good question. What's next for Rusev?
How about a repackage? How about bring back Rusev Day? Hire back Aiden English, bring back Rusev Day. I think he could have left Rusev off of TV a lot longer, because they said they wanted to keep him off TV in the reports to hold him off and wait until the right time to bring him back. This isn't the right time to bring him back because it didn't do shit for him or Oba. Oh, it gave Oba a win on the main roster against someone that no one actually has fanfare for. And again, not Rusev's fault. Great talent, very, very dedicated guy to his character and his intensity. But because the fans don't care, because the presentation and writing around him isn't engaging enough to get fans to care, you need to repackage him so fans can get back to loving him. Because before he went to WWE, he was one of the most over acts in the mid card. He was beloved by a lot of fucking people. And he could be that again. Sometimes it's okay to replay the hits.
Well, for now, I think they're going to keep using Rusev to make the younger guys look good. Keep putting over, some of these guys like Obafemi, which I don't see nothing wrong with that. Rusev, he's a veteran. He's been wrestling at a high level for much longer than most of these guys. Yeah, have Rusev be one of those big bad evil heels that a younger babyface has to overcome. I think that would be useful, because the WWE, they know what we want, right? But in order to, I guess, make it worth it, to really make it a big deal about it, like, for example, this turn that we got from Finn and Dom, it took over a year, or at least a year, to get there, and it mattered, and it worked, and it made sense. Same thing with like Ray Phoenix and Penta. We know they're brothers. We know they've been a tag team before. They haven't done it yet. It's been over a year. They're gonna do it. Hopefully, eventually, when the time is right. I have that same feeling with this whole Rusev Day thing. They're gonna do it when the time is right.
You know what I also just realized now that you mentioned Finn? Finn Balor is no longer in the Judgment Day. That is officially the last original member of the inaugural Judgment Day team that was originally Edge, Damian Priest, Finn Balor, and Rhea Ripley is done. They took Edge out and betrayed him. Then they turned on, it was, I believe, was it Damian first or Rhea first? They split at the same time. And then now it's Finn. All the original members from the first version of the Judgment Day are gone. They recruited Dom months and months and months later when Edge had already turned back face. So now this entire group of the Judgment Day is comprised of people that were brought in by original members or had spots stolen from other members. So that's actually pretty interesting now. The Judgment Day is officially in full-blown mode of a completely new version. But let's move on to the main event. This was a great segment to end the show on. Of course, Roman won't be here till next week, so Punk goes out there. But it wasn't just Punk, right? Because we had to set up from earlier when the Usos got done helping save basically Seth Rollins and LA Knight. We had Jackie Redmond backstage who was basically trying to get the Usos to answer a bunch of questions. They were very cagey, specifically Jey, very on edge tonight, trying to leave. And when they were asked about CM Punk's comments about Roman Reigns' father, Sika, last week, they were like, we ain't got nothing to say about that. But then Jimmy said, no, actually, you know, we might have something to say about it. So they stuck around the entire night. And then it was proposed that they might want to talk to Punk. Punk comes out and says that the title he has is important. In fact, it's the most important championship because it's the championship that defined the fact that it had to be created for champions that would be fighting champions because Roman couldn't be bothered to come in and defend his title when he was the undisputed champion during the Bloodline saga. Remember, fans were so mad that Roman would never come in. They were begging for anybody to dethrone him. Fans love to forget. They glaze Roman over Punk a lot, right? But as I previously covered, Roman couldn't buy a fucking win on his own without help for most of his Bloodline run. In fact, he only beat Big E, Matt Riddle, Brock Lesnar, and LA Knight on his own without Bloodline help in the entire run of his undisputed reign. However, remember, fans were clamoring for something more. They hated having one title on the show. So they made the World Heavyweight Championship again that Punk has because they needed someone to defend the championship because Roman couldn't be bothered. Now, of course, Punk says he levels the place up. Him being champion levels the championship up, but it levels up WWE. But he admits that he lowered himself to Roman's level last week. The Usos interrupt. They demand Punk apologize, specifically Jey, extremely enraged, is trying to convince Punk to apologize. And Jimmy, being the more level-headed, non-hothead, says it isn't about Roman, it's about respect. And they respect Punk, but they disrespected their late uncle, Sika, from what he said last week, and they need an apology. We then get some history I didn't know about Punk. A lot of people didn't. He has history with Sika's brother, Afa, their other uncle, one half of the legendary team, the Wild Samoans. Punk used to sleep on Afa's couch. Punk used to help run or at least be backstage at the promotion and help babysit Lance, which is one of the other cousins, and basically had a lot of history with Afa, had a lot of love for Afa. Now, he says his respect for the dynasty goes extremely deep, but Jey says, look, he gets furious and he goes, it's not about that. We need an apology. You need to apologize, very threateningly, basically saying you don't get it. It's not about Roman. You crossed a line that goes above anything, family above all. If you're a Samoan or Polynesian, you understand family is more important to them than it is any other culture on the planet. Punk says he is sorry, but he's sorry for the way Roman abused the bloodline and manipulated everybody. And he's sorry that he had all these fans going for so many years believing that he was the face of a company when he couldn't do anything by himself. He says he's sorry that Roman Reigns disrespected the late, great Dusty Rhodes, the father of his close friend Cody Rhodes, when he called back 2 years ago during WrestleMania 40 season when Roman said that Dusty was irrelevant, even though he was dead. And Punk says, oh, he's not on the hook for saying that about someone else's father, but when I say it, I'm the bad guy. And I'm so glad he brought that up because the Roman Glazers love to forget that Roman crossed that line himself before from another famous wrestling family. But it's Roman, right? So he's impeachable. And then it gets very aggressive. Punk shoves the microphone at Jay's chest, calling them Roman's young boys, and Jimmy punches Punk in the face. Punk says he deserved it, and they walk away and the show ends. And I thought this was a great wrinkle in the story. What did you think about this segment? Because I thought we got a lot of great lore here, and I thought this was really fucking well done, especially since Roman couldn't be bothered to be here this week.
Man, I knew shit was about to go down as soon as the Usos music hit and they interrupted CM Punk. I was like, okay, shit's about to get interesting. And it did, man. I mean, it took a while, to get there. But at the end of the segment, we did see some physicality there. I think it was Jimmy Uso who struck CM Punk. And I was like, good, man. Fucking finally, because after all of that, we better see something go down, bro. Like, I was like, man, something better happen or I'm going to be pissed. But it was good, man. It made sense. I think that was one of the major things that people were hoping for after the promo last week is, oh, I wonder if the Usos are going to have something to say about that. They're talking about that's their family. They're all about their family. So they're going to have something to say about that. The only thing that really annoyed me about this whole thing, and this is just me being petty and being picky, was Jey Uso. Jey Uso, Jey Uso, he's the heated one out of the two, right? Jimmy played the cool, calm, collectible one, you know, talking to Punk in a regular tone. Meanwhile, Jey Uso was like pacing back and forth, eyeballing CM Punk up and down, screaming at him, looking at him crazy. And I'm like, I don't care who you are. If you are my friend, anyone who's pacing back and forth at me like that, looking at me crazy like that, like we're gonna throw down. I don't give a fuck. Like, and CM Punk was just standing there, and I'm just like, bro, Jey Uso looks like he's about to go off on you, bro. You better put your dukes up, I just felt like Jey Uso did a little bit too much with that. A little overacting, a little bit too much for me, but
I think
other than that, it was cool.
I think it was perfectly in character for Jey. Jey has always been the hothead brother. That's why they call him Crash Out Jey. Because during the height of the bloodline story, Jimmy was always the level-headed one. Okay. When it came down to it, Solo was the calm, quiet one who never flinched, never showed any emotion. Roman was the very, very methodical, manipulative one, but Jey was the one who always wore his heart on his sleeve. And here, Jey has always been, hey, I'm the fun one, but I got the worst temper. And that's how it goes in real life. We all have that one friend who's always the happy-go-lucky one, but they're the most dangerous one in the group. And that's Jey.
Just made Punk look like a punk.
It actually made Punk look smart because Punk wasn't going to get jumped before he finished saying what he had to say. And that was the point. Punk didn't give credence to Jey because he's like, what's Punk's thing? You're going to listen to what I have to say. You can do what you want, say what you want after I'm finished. And that's what Punk said to Roman last week. You're going to listen to everything I have to tell you before you walk away from me. And tonight, he was ready to eat that punch, but he was going to make sure they fucking heard the truth from his mouth. You were manipulated by your cousin, abused and used. If he loved you, if he cared about me, if he cared about this title, if he cared about these people, I would be talking to him right now. Instead, you're standing in front of me because he can't be bothered, like always, to show the fuck up. And it's true. It's so true. And Jey, hearing that truth, reminiscent of the bloodline, being told by Sammy, you're being used, you're being manipulated. And what did Jey do? Nah, man, you're wrong. And he would lose because he's trying to contain the rage. He can't accept the truth. And that's who Jey was tonight. Jey of old, because Jey might be happy-go-lucky, but Jey is the first one to jump on your ass about family. He super kicked his brother over family. He super kicked Sammy over his family. He beat the shit out of Roman for his family. He will do it to you because you talk about family. He's the one who cares the most. So I thought this was really good shit from them personally, especially Jey.
The last thing that stood out to me about this whole thing was after Jimmy hit CM Punk with that right hand, CM Punk went down, and while he was holding his face, selling, he said, I deserve that. I deserve that. So I think CM Punk is just going to eat that punch and just shake it off and just be like, all right, we're cool now. We're even.
I think that if they have more words as these weeks go on, Punk's going to basically tell him, look, you got one free shot. You got one free shot in. And I let it go because I knew I deserved it. Okay? Because I knew. But don't you ever put your hands on me for telling the truth again. But at the same time, Punk shoved aggressively the mic straight into Jey's chest. And Jimmy only punched Punk because Punk put his hands on his brother. So the punch was fair game because, Punk, technically, you touched him first, and Big Brother's going to Big Brother. He's going to protect. But notice how Jimmy only hit him once and then was holding Jey back. And like, no, we're not about, he's our friend. We're not going to beat the shit out of him. He's our friend. He crossed the line, but even as a friend, you go too far. I rocked your shit because you went too far. So I hope this puts more drama and cracks between them, but I also hope that the Usos call out Roman too. I want to see some stuff there in the next couple of weeks. Let's really, really get this emotion pumping, but it's making me more excited for the match. Right now, this is my most anticipated match for Mania, brother. It really is. But any other final thoughts before I get us out of here? All right, guys, thank you for joining us on this episode of Snug Wrestling. That is the March 9th, 2026 edition of Raw, reviewed and in the books on Apple and Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts now that we are going off the air. But you can kick it with us every single week for Raw, NXT, and SmackDown after the shows go off the air, respectively, for live post-show reviews, always live on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And of course, again, if you miss us live, catch on Apple and Spotify at Snug Wrestling. Of course, if you like bonus content, you can join us during the actual live shows for segment-to-segment reaction content that is always there, and hang out with us every Thursday night on TikTok Live, where myself, Mr. Blood, and the head and founder of Snug Wrestling, Edgar, go one-on-one for random and relevant wrestling topics for 1 hour on live stream, where we also will answer your fan questions live. Of course, guys, you can always support the podcast by heading over to teepublic.com. That's TEE public.com/Snug Wrestling, where you can pick up your Snug Wrestling merch like this and like that hat that Snug is wearing and the shirt Snug is wearing, and represent your favorite wrestling podcast, guys. Well, until next time, thank you so much for joining us. Stay safe, stay savage, and stay snug.